time for take 5,912. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And for Flyers country, this is probably the lowest we have been probably ever in the entire history of this organization. This is probably the lowest they have ever been. This past couple of days, these past couple of weeks, honestly, this entire season, I feel like it's been more ramped up actually just because of the past couple of days, what has transpired in Flyers country. It really started, with the Wednesday night game against the New York Rangers. After all, the New York fans took over the Wells Fargo Center. It was not a good time. It was not a good sight. It was an embarrassment for this organization. That was the first time, honestly, in my entire lifetime that I have ever seen an enemy fan base take over the Wells Fargo Center that badly. It just felt like it was 75% Rangers fans to 5% Flyers fans. It was that bad. It was that much of a separation, and a Rangers team that was coming into that game freshly off of, a couple of huge trades for their Stanley Cup playoff run in Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. Vladimir Tarasenko, he scores the game-winning goal in overtime, and it's just that entire game, just honestly, these past couple of days has been so embarrassing, so dreadful for this organization, and it's just so mind-boggling that it has gotten this bad. I feel like we should have expected it at this point, just because of how bad this front office has been, because with Chuck Fletcher at the helm of everything, running this entire crapshoot, we probably should have expected this, but this is a reality that we're living in, and it's really hard to live in that reality of your hockey team, a team that was once, one of the teams that ran this city, had a passionate fan base. This city was die hard for the Philadelphia Flyers, die hard for the orange and the black. And over the past so many years of making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, the Flyers have become bottom feeders in this city. It's that bad. Phillies winning the World Series in 2008. Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and basically the Phillies and the Eagles going back to the World Series and the Super Bowl this year. The Sixers are constant playoff threats, even though they haven't gotten past the second round. They're still, they're having their due. And the Union, they're coming off of their MLS Cup championship loss. They got there, and they're proving themselves to be one of the more topper teams in this city. And then the Flyers. They are the worst of the worst. And sadly, they're not even at the bottom of the NHL standings. They're almost there. They're like the 8th worst team in the league, but they're nowhere close to teams like Columbus, Chicago, Anaheim, all those other teams. Like the really dreadful teams. This team's bad, don't get me wrong, but they're nowhere close to maybe where they should be to have, better chances of getting a high draft pick in a very generational draft with, Connor Bedard and all these other types of great players that are here. A guy that can possibly change your franchise in Connor Bedard. A guy that's just dominating the CHL, everything in the World Juniors, breaking records. A guy that can change your franchise for the better. Be a face of your organization and turn it around. Turn it around like an Eric Lindros did in the 90s. We are nowhere close to that. You have to rely on luck in winning that draft lottery with the ping pong balls. You have to rely on the luck. And right now with this team, there's no reason for fans to believe. There's no reason for fans to have trust in this front office, in that entire situation up there, that entire organization. Have no clue what they're doing. The only person throughout this entire situation, this entire season that has been completely transparent to us is John Tortorella. John Tortorella, we all know, he's a hard-nosed guy. He tells you how it is, and he's been basically that guy for the fan base that entire year, and it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't have to be coming from the mouth of John Tortorella, because honestly, with the crap that he has been given this season, the crap roster and everything like that, he's done a fine job. He's done a fine job of what he has. But he shouldn't have to be the guy that's talking to the fan base about how this is going to take a while. This is a process. we are rebuilding and having to start young. We have to start from scratch. It shouldn't have to come from him. It should have to come from the guys in the front office, that staff, Chuck Fletcher, all the assistant guys, your top brass, Dave Scott, and everything like that. It's got to come from them, and it hasn't. Yeah, they said it a couple of days ago that, oh, we've been stressing it all year that we're rebuilding. But, you know, even though I'll get into the trade deadline stuff in a couple of seconds here, but Chuck Fletcher I have no idea why this guy is still even here. I have no idea why. Because a couple of days ago, he stresses to us that the message the entire year has been that we are rebuilding. We are starting from scratch. We are trying to get young. When I'm talking about, you know, remembering the offseason, when he's stressing to the entire fan base that we are aggressively retooling. We are trying to acquire high-end talent, you know, through trades, through free agency. There's a guy out there in Johnny Gaudreau, South Jersey native, one of the better players in the league. He wants to come to your team. He wants to sign for his hometown team that he grew up cheering for as a child. And you don't sign him. You go out and sign guys like Nick Deloria. You go out and trade 2-3 draft picks to sign Tony DeAngelo. And that's basically all you do. And then you come in the middle way through the season talking about how we're only 5-10 points out of a playoff spot. And no, we just, you know, wait till Sean Couturier, wait till Cam Atkinson come back from their injuries. Yeah, that was a lie because we all knew from the beginning of the year those guys were not coming back. So that was another lie that Chuck Fletcher told us. And then he tries to tell us a couple of days ago that they have been stressing the entire year that they're rebuilding when he has not said that once. The entire season. The only person that has brought that up is John Tortorella. Chuck Fletcher has not said that once. How is anyone supposed to take him seriously? How is any fan, season ticket holder, anyone in the city of Philadelphia, anyone in the National Hockey League supposed to take this guy seriously, this team seriously, when he is constantly changing the message? Oh, we're aggressively retooling. Oh, we're trying to be competitive. We're 5-10 points out of a wild card spot. Oh, we're rebuilding. How does it change that drastically in 6 months? Chuck, how does it change? How does it change that badly? We just want a clear message. A clear message. We want transparency. We want honesty. And the only person to give us that is John Tortorella. And he is right now the only person that Flyers fans trust. They have no trust in his organization. They have no trust in that front office. They have no trust in his ownership in Comcast and Dave Scott because they have no clue what they're doing. And you know what? Dave Scott, this is from Anthony Sanfilippo, he has alumni, Bill Barber, teaching him the game of hockey. He has alumni, guys that were here for the Stanley Cups in 74 and 75, guys that have completely passed by the modern game of National Hockey League. Guys that played during the rough and tough era where they're beating up everyone, the Broad Street Bullies, all that stuff. Great teams, but a completely different era of hockey. Those guys, 70-plus-year-olds, they're teaching Dave Scott the game of hockey. Those guys. No wonder why Dave Scott's clueless. No wonder why he has no idea what he's doing. And granted, he's just a Comcast guy. He has no idea what sports are. He's just a face. He's just a guy that Comcast put here to run the organization, and he's doing a terrible job of it. A terrible job. But honestly, this still even goes back because with the alumni here, with Ed Snyder, with Bobby Clark, Paul Holmgren, Bill Barber, all of those guys, these guys have still been in place here even during Ed Snyder's regime before he passed away. So it's even going back towards that. This stretch, this horrible stretch, dates back to the Hextall era. It dates back to the Holmgren era of how poorly this team has been run. You know, during the Holmgren era, the Ed Snyder stuff, when he was still running this team, when he was still alive, you know, God rest his soul. But how they're trying to go after every year, spend money on free agents, try, you know, not rebuilding, not building through the draft, trying to spend all this money possible in a cap league to build a Stanley Cup team, and it never worked. It never worked. You got close in 2010, but that was basically a fluke year. You got into the playoffs on a shootout against the New York Rangers in Game 82. It was a fantastic ride that year, but honestly, if you lose that shootout, none of that happens. You don't lose to the Chicago Blackhawks in Game 6 on a Patrick Kane overtime goal where no one knew where the puck was in the net. That doesn't happen if you lose that shootout. You got in off of a fluke. 2011, 2012, you're eliminated in the second round, and then you go on the stretch of make the playoffs. We get a little bit of hope. We get a little bit of hope that this team is actually going in the right direction in 2019, 2020, when this team is ice hot. They're playing their best hockey. They're living up to their potential. Claude Giroux, all these young guys, depth, goaltending, and Carter Hart, they're all playing to their potential. They're one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. Cut short by COVID. They go to the bubble playoffs. They look horrible. They look horrible. A completely different team than what they looked like during the regular season. Granted, there was a long gap between the regular season stoppage and the start of the bubble playoffs. But they got embarrassed in the bubble. Yeah, they made the second round, but they got embarrassed by the New York Islanders, even though they forced the Game 7. They got embarrassed. I don't even count that anymore. Because you know what's happened since then? Absolute utter garbage. The shortened season after the bubble. Garbage. We were expected to compete even more that year. Complete flop. Okay, try to bounce back the next year. You made some trades in the offseason. You acquired guys like Cam Atkinson. You acquired guys like Ryan Ellis. You acquired all these different faces. It completely falls on you. Guys get hurt. The entire team flops. And you're one of the worst teams in the league. You fire your head coach. You put Mike Yeo as interim. Everything goes to shit. And now you're here. No one was expecting this team to be good. But then you're preaching to us in the offseason that you're aggressively retooling. You're going to try to find high-end talent for trades through all this stuff. And none of that happens. So why do Flyers fans, why do you expect Flyers fans to trust you? Why do you expect season ticket holders to renew their season tickets? Because there's a ton of season ticket holders that are not renewing. And good on them. And good on them. They don't deserve. They don't deserve all these people buying their tickets. They don't. They don't. They just don't. They don't. And I'm not telling people how to spend their money because maybe you want to go down to the Wells Fargo Center and take your family to a game. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. Granted, yes, I have no room to talk because me and my father still, we've renewed our tickets. But I'm still going to bash this team as much as anyone. I don't blame anyone that doesn't want to renew because I'm betting on you right here. Not many people are renewing their tickets. Not many. And there's a season ticket holder town hall meeting on Saturday after this trade deadline. Oh yeah, let's get to the trade deadline. Almost brushed past on that because, everything else with this organization, just awful. Just awful. Just everything like that. Trade deadline. What was that? Just should we damper our expectations? You tell us that you're sellers. You tell us that you're selling. You're starting a rebuild. And you barely trade anyone. We're going through these past couple of weeks of teams that recognizing that they're probably nowhere close to a playoff push. They're selling off their assets while their value is still at it where it's at. You see teams like the St. Louis Blues selling guys like Ryan O'Reilly. Other teams around the league are doing this like that. Yeah, maybe there's some clueless teams around here like the Vancouver Canucks, but maybe you should take advantage of the market of what's going on. But no, we got Chuck Fletcher here waiting until the very last minute, and he is struggling to trade James Van Riemsdyk. He is struggling. And he doesn't get it through. He just doesn't. We had a trade. We had a trade with JVR to the Detroit Red Wings near the final minute. And it fell through. Detroit canned it. Because you know why? It's Detroit GM and Steve Yzerman, one of the better GMs in the National Hockey League, going up against Chuck Fletcher, probably the worst executive in National Hockey League history. It's a game of cat and mouse. Steve Yzerman's the cat. Chuck Fletcher's the mouse. And the cat is literally playing around with the mouse basically until its head's chopped off. And that's what Steve Yzerman did to Chuck Fletcher. Now everything's saying, Detroit needed to trade another player and all this stuff that Chuck Fletcher's saying. I don't believe it. I don't believe, like, why should I believe anything that Chuck Fletcher says? Why should I believe anything that he says during his press conference that they barely got any calls on JVR? The only call they got was at 1:40 p.m. right, before the deadline was close to ending 3 p.m. Why should I believe that they barely got calls on anyone? They only got one call on JVR and a call on another player when they're out here, trading these random-ass guys. They're trading Isaac Ratcliffe for cash considerations. They're trading Zach McEwen to the Los Angeles Kings for Brandon Lemieux and a 5th-round pick. They're trading Patrick Brown to the Ottawa Senators for a 6th-round pick. Yeah, they're UFAs. You're getting draft capital for those guys. Good. But shouldn't you be doing that with the rest of your UFAs? All the other guys that are on expiring contracts that are most likely should not be back here next year? Shouldn't you try to get rid of JVR's contract? Shouldn't you try to get some assets back for him? I don't even care if it's a 5th-round pick. I don't care if it's a 6th-round pick. You're not getting rid of that contract, and he's going to walk for nothing. Nothing. I don't care what his value was around the league. Get a 6th-round pick. Get a 5th-round pick. I don't care. Get the contract off the team. Get it off the team. And he failed at doing that. He failed. He failed. And he tried to make his excuses at his post-trade deadline media availability. And oh boy, he was getting flamed. He was getting a little bit flustered because everyone was asking him about the JVR trade. And he goes, man, guys, you're really, you're really pounding this question. Oh my gosh. No shit, Chuck! No shit! You flumped probably the easiest trade you could make this entire deadline. You had months to make this trade. You had weeks to make this trade. And you failed at doing that. I knew there were reports, on Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov, and all. I wasn't expecting those guys to get traded because of the contracts. Sell off your UFAs. Sell off your expiring contracts. All the UFAs, get them off the team. Get assets for them. If you're rebuilding, you're supposed to be building up draft capital. Look at these other teams around the league. Look at the Chicago Blackhawks from the picks, the 1st and 2nd round picks that they have over the next few seasons. It's a ton. Well, I'm going to go to the Chicago Blackhawks right now and show you or tell you how many, future 1st-round picks they have over the next couple of years. They got 6 1st-round picks over the next 3 years. 6. And just in this 1st round, this draft in general, they have 6 picks between the 1st and the 2nd round. 6. And overall, 1st and 2nd round picks over the next few years. They got 14. They got 14 1st and 2nd round draft picks combined over the next 3 drafts. That's a team that realizes where they're at. Well, even though they're obviously tanking, but they're selling off the assets for draft capital. What are we doing? We're sitting on our asses, feeling sorry for ourselves, and just coming up with excuses on why we can't get rid of these contracts. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke on how bad this franchise has got. We're sitting here talking about aggressive retooling to 5 to 10 points out of a wild card spot, to signing guys like Travis Sanheim to 8-year extensions. And don't get me started with all those bad contracts that Chuck Fletcher has gotten. Seriously, Travis Sanheim for 8 years and over $6.5 million, I believe. Over $6.5 million for Travis Sanheim. Over $6.5 million for Travis Sanheim. 8 years. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're signing just guys. Not elite caliber defensemen. Not high-end talent that is already on the roster. We're signing Travis Sanheim. An okay defenseman in the National Hockey League. Nothing that garners 8 years. Nothing that garners 8 years. 8 years. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous on how bad it's gotten. Showing all these bad contracts. Let's just look at them, specifically on the defense. Travis Sanheim, well, not $6.5 million, $6.25 million. Travis Sanheim, $6.25 million. It's ridiculous. Rasmus Ristolainen, $5.1 million for the next 4 years after this. He's still got Ivan Provorov, who's I would say most likely is gone. Who knows? But I know Tortorella likes him. $6.75 million for the next 2 years after this. Sanheim's contract doesn't even start till next year. And you got Tony DeAngelo for $5 million for another year. A guy that, and even looking at the other trades, you remember trading away Shane Gostisbehere? Remember how the Flyers had to get rid of 2 draft picks to get rid of him? And granted, Ghost was bad. He was bad when the Flyers traded him. He had no value. They gave up 2 picks, a 2nd and a 7th, to get rid of him. Arizona flipped him this year to the Carolina Hurricanes for a 3rd round pick. While the Flyers this past offseason, when they're getting rid of draft capital to trade Ghost, they're getting rid of more draft capital to basically go out and get the same defenseman in Tony DeAngelo. A 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th. A 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th. To sign Tony DeAngelo for 2 years. Because Carolina didn't want to sign him to the cap hit that the Flyers signed him to. What are we doing? What is the direction? What is the goal? What is the thought process? Because you're saying aggressive retool. Aggressive retool is going out and signing Nick Delorier to a 4-year contract with a no movement clause. Signing Tony DeAngelo for 2 years. And relying on guys like Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson to come back from injury. That's your aggressive retool, Chuck Fletcher. Ha! That's your aggressive retool. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. All these bad contracts that he has put this team under. All these bad contracts. The Kevin Hayes contract, and I like Kevin Hayes. I think he's a good player in this league. He does not deserve that contract, and we're stuck with it until he trades them, or until the Flyers trade him away. I know there were reports during this trade deadline that he could possibly be traded, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen at all. All these other, the Sanheim contract, $6.25 million for 8 years. 8 years, and it hasn't even started yet. It hasn't even started yet. What are we doing? Why is Chuck Fletcher still here? Why does Chuck Fletcher have the reins to go and sign guys like Travis Sanheim for 8 years? Why? Why are we letting him do this? Is his job not safe? Like, seriously, is his job not safe? He's saying during his press conference that I am not worried about my job. That's Dave Scott's. You have to talk to Dave Scott about that. He's literally saying here during his press conference, I'm not worried about my job. He's discussing how no team is asking him for trades. But that's an obvious lie. He's lying through his ass. He's lying through his ass. That's all he does. That's all he does is lie. Not 1 ounce of the truth. Not 1 ounce of the transparency. The only guy that has told us the truth is Torts. No one else. No one else. How is any fan of this team supposed to trust this? How are you expecting fans to renew your season tickets? Because they're not going to. Attendance is just going to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle until you're losing everyone. Because no one's going to come to this shit show any longer. Fans have had enough. Fans have had enough. And does this team realize it? Maybe. There's rumblings that they do know how upset the fan base is. But do they have the balls to make the right moves? I don't think they do. I don't think they do. Not with this alumni running the show. Not with this ownership running the show. Not with Chuck Fletcher at the helm. It just can't. It just can't. It just can't. It just can't. See a comment right here. Cam Forster, was that you who called into the best show ever? Yes, it was. It was. I did call into the best show ever. I was telling them all about the town hall meeting for season ticket holders that's tomorrow afternoon. And oh boy, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to show up there at Xfinity Live and say what I want to say to Chuck Fletcher. Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait to do that. I'm going to go there. Me and my father are going to record it. All the fans that are pissed off. I can't wait. I'm going to have some reactions. I'm going to tape it with my phone or my dad's phone. He's going to send it to me. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to enjoy myself and not let these guys off the hook. Not let them off the hook. Because if you're a season ticket holder and you just happen to be watching the stream, or if you listen to the best show ever today on 97.5 The Fanatic, great show, Tyrone Johnson, Jen Scordo, Ricky Pataligo, Hunter Brody, great show. Doing the right thing, talking to Flyers fans, letting them vent, all that. And basically just saying it as it is and how bad this organization has got. With the embarrassment that was Wednesday night with the Rangers game. And because we thought that was rock bottom. We thought Wednesday night was rock bottom. No. Today is rock bottom. And honestly, it can get worse. It can get worse. It can get worse. It can get worse. Because this Flyers team has proven to us it can get worse. When you just think you're at the bottom, when you think you're there, it gets worse. You think you reached the bottom, but nope, here comes another crack, here comes another hole, and your floor is broken, and you're falling all the way down to the center of the earth. I don't even know how much lower it can get. I don't know. I'm losing my mind thinking about it. I am. I'm just losing my mind every day thinking about how this guy still has a job. How Chuck Fletcher is still here. And I don't know how he's going to escape tomorrow alive. You know, I'm exaggerating there, but is he going to bullshit his way through tomorrow with the answers from the season ticket holders? And every town hall meeting, there's going to be those people, because it's not just Chuck Fletcher and company. It's Chuck Fletcher. It's the business side of everything. It's the building operations for the Wells Fargo Center. So it's basically a mix and match of everything. But during the Chuck Fletcher time, that's when this fan base, the season ticket holders that are going tomorrow, do not let Chuck Fletcher, do not let anyone in that front office off the hook, because they are all responsible for how bad this team has been, for how embarrassing this organization has become. We've gone from one of the most respected organizations in the league for our entire existence to one of the laughingstocks of the league. We're down in the territory of the Arizona Coyotes. That's how bad we have gotten. Arizona, one of the laughingstocks in the league. We're down there. We're down there. Because no one respects us anymore. Everyone can fool Chuck Fletcher. Everyone can toy with Chuck Fletcher because he's the worst executive in the league. And you know, there was talks about him possibly just moving up to the promotion and just becoming the president, Danny Briere being the GM. There were talks about that throughout the season. There were. Chuck Fletcher would move up to the president role and Danny Briere would be the GM. There were talks about that. But after this, how can you possibly keep this guy around? How can you possibly let this guy continue to run things? How can you trust this guy to do a rebuild? When he has proven so far that he can't draft, when he has proven so far that he's terrible with money, when he signs guys to terrible contracts, when he gives up all the draft capital in the world for guys like Tony DeAngelo, for guys like Rasmus Ristolainen, when he signs guys to albatross contracts like Travis Sanheim for 8 years, like Rasmus Ristolainen to a 4 or 5 year extension, all these guys. How can we trust them? How can we trust them? We can't. We can't. And enough is enough. This team has been run to the gutter. It has. Now, I haven't been doing Flyers recaps this year because it's not worth it. Because this team does not want to put a good product out there. Why should I recap that? Why should I talk about that? Why am I talking about it right now? Because hockey was my number one sport. And I care about this team too much. I love hockey to death. Watching this team this year has taken my love away from the game. I've barely watched around the league this year. But what I do, I go out and see other teams. I see teams, a young, exciting team like the New Jersey Devils. I see exciting teams like the New York Rangers. I see great teams like, what else? The Boston Bruins, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Colorado Avalanche. I see all these, Connor McDavid, all these exciting players around the league. David Pastrnak, all these other guys. And I just get jealous. I get jealous. Because our team, our city, this hockey team, this organization is not capable of doing that. Not with this regime. Not with these idiots. Not with these dunderheads running everything. Not with Chuck Fletcher, not with Bobby Clark, not with Paul Holmgren, not with Bill Barber, not with anyone in that front office, not with Dave Scott, not with Comcast. Now, Comcast is never going to sell. They're just not. But we need to find the right people to put in this organization that know what the hell they're doing. Because right now, it ain't working. It ain't working. And this team's going to be bad for a while. Bad for a while. Because I don't see them getting out of it anytime soon. Until they look themselves in the mirror and figure it out. Because Chuck Fletcher is still here. And I don't know when he's going to go. He has to be gone, right? Like, he has to be gone soon. Off season. He should have been fired today. He should have been fired right after that deadline. He should have been able to have that media press conference. He should have been able to. He should have been fired right on the spot. If any ownership paid attention, if Comcast paid attention, if Dave Scott had the balls, if he knew what he was doing, he would be fired right on the spot. Even though Ed Snyder is also part, even though, like I said, God rest his soul, he's part of the blame too because of the way he, always wanted to go for the win and not want to rebuild. He didn't believe in that. Still, he would have fired him. Chuck Fletcher would have been gone yesterday for that. What he pulled this deadline. You had all the easiest job in the world. Get rid of JVR. And you couldn't even do that. You couldn't even do that. I'm just getting more mad thinking about this entire thing. Because it's that bad. It is that bad. All these contracts that set your team back for years. For years. Now, yes, on the team, I'm not mad at the players because they're doing all they can. They're playing the John Tortorella hockey. It's not John Tortorella's fault. If I'm looking at this team right now, like what players, I like some of the players. Like, yeah, Owen Tippett having a nice season. Noah Cates, nice. Carter Hart, all that. Konecny's having a nice year. But if you're rebuilding, strip it down, man. Strip it down. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It just is. And we do have a voicemail here on the Anytime Hotline. You can leave them here at 215-839-9885. Your thoughts and opinions if you want to share anything on the Flyers situation. Maybe I'll have another stream the next couple of days talking about everything with the town hall meeting. Or maybe I'll just upload some highlights from there if I do able to get video. Because knowing me, they'll probably say, oh, you can't record all this stuff. You can't have your cameras out and anything. Like, this is just private events. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. The voices need to be heard. The fans need to take a stand against this team. They do. But we have a voicemail here from Sean. Let's hear what he has to say.
So I'm going to say the same thing to you, Amadeo, that I said to Chris earlier. I'm going to start a GoFundMe account for you as well, being forced to cover this dumpster fire of the team on a daily basis. Credit to you. You're a better person than me. Look, I look at the Flyers, and I honestly am befuddled as to what this team can do to right the ship. I mean, elephant in the room, yes, Chuck Fletcher has to get out of there, but you turn the reins over most likely to Danny Briere, a guy who's never done it before. Is that going to be any better? I don't know. I mean, I heard you, Amadeo, calling in on the Fanatic and voicing your displeasure and your dad's displeasure being season ticket holders. And, you know, Tyrone Johnson and the cast was right. As a fan, I guess all you can do is not go. Don't put coins in the coffer of the corporate suits and refuse to support this team. I mean, I don't know. The only golden ray of hope to me, minimal at best, is that they somehow land Connor Bedard. I mean, Connor Bedard would basically be the savior for this franchise, kind of like it was when Lindros arrived. At least it would give them a building block. At least it would give them some level of a foundation. Maybe he can even get other guys to want to play with him. Because right now, this is a rudderless ship that has absolutely no direction but down.
I agree with every word there, Sean. I agree with every word. Flyers are on a ship, and it's been sinking for years. It's not even fully sunken yet. This is the biggest ship in history, and it's taken forever to sink. And it feels like we're at the rock bottom, and honestly, it feels like it can get worse. Because I thought rock bottom was Wednesday night. No, rock bottom was today. It was the day deadline. And honestly, could rock bottom be tomorrow afternoon at that town hall meeting? It could be. It could be. It only feels like it can get worse from here. It only does. I don't know how they fix this. Oh yeah, the one way you fix it, it's get this freaking front office out of here. Because this front office, the GM, assistant GM, everything, senior advisors, get all this alumni out here. Get all these scouts out of here. All this development stuff. Get them out. Flush it out. Reset that entire front office. Get guys that actually know how to run an organization, how to run a hockey team, smart hockey people that know how to make trades, that know how to draft, that know how to scout, that know how to develop. Remember when we had a top farm system so many years ago? Where did that go? Where did that go? Ron Hextall. Even though he's completely destroying everything in Pittsburgh now. But it's just complete and utter shit. It is. It just is. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's so hard talking about this team now. It really is. It's so hard talking about them. Because, like I said, hockey was my number one. And this year, it's just the final straw. They're not worth talking about. They're not worth anything. And what fans need to stop spending your money on this team. Like, even though I'm not the one to tell you how to spend your money. Stop spending your money on this team. Stop going to games. Stop giving money to Comcast. Just stop. They need to see this. They need to see how upset the fans are and how enough is enough. We want a clear-cut direction. We want the truth. We want honesty. We want this thing to be fixed. We know if you were rebuilding, this is not going to take a year. If you were said you were rebuilding from the start, we would have accepted it. But right now, you've given us so many answers. You've given us so many directions that we don't even know what direction you're going into. We have never known a clear-cut path for 2-3 years at this point. 2 to 3 years at this point, we have not known what the direction of this team has gone. And now you're trying to say that the direction is rebuilding. And right now, we can't believe you. We can't believe you. We don't trust you because you failed at the trade deadline. You failed everywhere else. How should we be able to trust that you're going to successfully rebuild this team from the bottom up? We can't. And this team, this upper staff has to realize that. They have to realize that you can't be doing this with Chuck Fletcher. Like, they just have to. I don't care that Bob Clark is buddy-buddy with Chuck Fletcher. Get him out of here. Get Bobby Clark out of here, too. Get all that alumni out of here. Get Bobby Clark out of here. Get Paul Holmgren out of here. Get Bill Barber out of here. Get actual people that know the game today, that know it's a speed and skill game. Get people that are young, like in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, that know the game today, that know how to scout, that know how to run a team, that know how to develop everything else. Get all the old stuff out of here. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the Broad Street bully mentality. I want a team like the goddamn New Jersey Devils. I want a team like the New York Rangers. I want the Colorado Avalanche. I want a Connor McDavid. Because I watch all these other teams around the league, and I'm jealous. I want that. And what we've gotten over the past so many years, for a long time, is utter garbage. Utter shit. And it needs to change. And I don't trust this team to change it. I won't believe it until I see it. It's where we stand. It's where we stand. End of an era. It feels like it. It definitely does. But what do I know? I'm just a guy on a YouTube channel that talks about Philly sports. A guy that cares so deeply for his sports teams. A guy that cares so deeply for his hockey team. That wants them to be better. That wants to see a Stanley Cup in Philadelphia. And I have no idea how far away we are from that. Nothing's going to change until this front office is gone. Nothing's going to change. Nothing. And I don't know when it's going to happen. But it better happen soon. And I hope these people at the town hall at the meeting tomorrow, including myself, express that. Because this team needs to realize it. Because the only person, like I said, that has shown any type of transparency is John Tortorella. Right now, the only person I trust within that organization, it's one person. It's John Tortorella right now. Because he's the only one that's saying it how it is. Get rid of everyone else. Get rid of everyone else. Torts can stay. Because he seems to actually know what he's doing. Maybe he's trying to whip these guys into shape. I don't know. But it's not a discussion for another day. Going on long enough. I thank you everyone here for joining the stream, for joining in the frustration, for everything. My God. Worked up. What this team does to you. It really is. So, like I said, maybe I'll have some highlights from the town hall meeting tomorrow. Maybe I'll upload them here to the channel if I do get those. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Thank you everyone for joining tonight's stream. I don't know when it's going to get better. I hope it is. I hope it is. But stay tuned for everything else on this channel, streams and everything like that, recaps and all that stuff. Do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Do not forget to drop a like on the video. Do not forget to check out everything in the description down below. Do not forget to check out, everything. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate that. And also, don't forget to use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass up on that. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight.